I hate this day. I really do. I still remember this like it happened yesterday, and it's been 11 years now. So, this all started on Father's Day in 2011. My family, we lived a few blocks away from my mother, and apparently on that day, my brother had went over there, and some words were said, a situation happened, and it was a combustible element. And allegedly, he threw their lawn furniture across the yard and kicked a few lights and then left. My mother called me and said that, if your brother shows up, he's going crazy. Call the cops. And I'm like, that's my brother. I'm not going to call the cops on him. It was probably a few minutes after that, there was a knock at my door, and it was my brother. He wasn't crazy. There was nothing wrong with him. He was hungry. So I brought him in. I cooked him spaghetti. And then we went upstairs and played Black Ops for a few hours. It's on a Sunday night, June 19th, 2011. Me and Bev had to be at work at 5 o'clock the next morning. So I had to go to sleep. I took him home, not to his home, but he was staying with his friends Johnny and William. And took him over there. It's just a couple blocks away from my house. And it's 11:30, 12 o'clock in the morning, midnight. And he got out of the car, and I said, all right, look, me and Bev have to work a really long time tomorrow. As soon as I get off, I'll come by and pick you up, and I'm off on Tuesday. We'll spend all day together. He said, cool. I said, all right, I'll see you tomorrow. I love you. And he got out of my car. We worked a really long day Monday. We didn't get out of there till about 8, 9 o'clock. My mother had made Bev a broccoli casserole, and we went over there to get it. My mother brought it out to us, and she says, did y'all hear about that man that got hit by the train? Nope. Been at work all day. Some man right up there at the drugstore was walking on the train tracks and got hit. Have you talked to my brother today? No. Can you call him now? His sister's got his phone. Wonderful. So now I'm in arms, just losing it because I feel like something's wrong. I spend the entire next day very worried. Bev assures me that everything's okay. He's probably just laid up with some girl somewhere, which would not surprise me. But it didn't sit well with me. So I went and I got my mother's. I went and picked up my mother, and we went to where it happened. And I seen blood, dried blood. It's in the summertime. And there were bits and chunks of bone on the tracks. At the time, there was a small street. All the houses are gone now, but at the time there was about three or four houses left on that street, and there was I don't say a little girl, but she had to be between the ages of 10 and 13. She's small, and I had my phone, and I walked up to her, and I, completely non-threatening, and just, can I ask you a question about what happened yesterday? And she said she's seen it. It's a kid. You, you've got to be wary about when young kids say things. I showed her a picture of him on my phone, and she said it was him. She leads me further down the tracks, and I see a blood trail going down a hill. I see blood everywhere still. I'm very worried now. So I go back to my mother, and we call. Forget who it was that she called, but it was a cop. He was a detective working on the case, and he said that the body is unidentifiable. But if we had anything with my brother's DNA, then we could at least rule it out that it wasn't him. He didn't live with my parents. He was between housing situations, but he had stayed with me, and I had a spare toothbrush, a stick of his deodorant. Will that do? They said yeah. And I also told them about his last visit to the dentist, and they could get his dental records from there, which they did. It is now Wednesday. I am back at Bev's off. At the time, we only had one car. And I work a full day. I don't say anything to anybody. I'm not very cordial that day. And towards the end of my shift, my cell phone rings, and I answer it, and it's my mother. I can't even understand her. But I knew exactly what it was. My baby brother, who was 18 years old, had borrowed Johnny's iPod and decided to go for a walk. This is a small town. People have been walking the train tracks here for my entire life. It's just a quick way to get where you're going without being bothered with traffic or anything like that. Train hit him head on. It liquefied him. How could he not hear it? Had on noise canceling earbuds. He couldn't hear anything. And he listened to his music loud, anyways. It's the train tracks. The train's coming. How can you not feel the vibration? When my brother was very, very young, he had some severe orthopedic problems. And they said that he lacked about 95% of the feeling in the bottom of his feet. So he wouldn't have been able to feel that. He had his head down, presumably. I'm pure speculation. Didn't see it coming. So I lost it. I'm a wreck. I'm fairly certain that a huge part of me died that day. Today has been 11 years since it happened. I made this video with every picture of him that I had 11 years ago. I haven't watched it since. There was so much that happened after that. There's so many people that I place blame on. Am I right? Probably not. Is it is it wrong to place the blame for an accident like that? Probably. Do I care? No. This is him at the beach with my cousin's family. Long time ago. This is a lifetime ago now. It's funny. I look back at these pictures and they seem like yesterday, and it's not. It, I love this kid with all my heart. I never had a brother. I have a brother and a sister on my father's side. My sister I've met maybe 5 times. I've literally never met that brother. Though recently he did try to get in contact with me to tell me stuff about that side of my family that I have literally never met. This was my brother. We uh we got custody of him when he was 7 years old, and he stayed with us all the way up until he was about 16. And then he wanted to go stay with his mom, his real mom, and his sister, who had just gotten out of prison. that his mom had a boyfriend, and that boyfriend said that he didn't want my brother staying there anymore. Said something about my brother having a watermelon head. He just doesn't want him there. So my brother essentially had nowhere to go. This picture is the last picture of him alive. Convenience store. About It's right beside the old CCB bank. It's not even there anymore. But you see, his last meal was a bag of potato chips. That was June 20th, 2011 at 3:04 p.m. It was about 19 minutes later, that point of impact. And on that, this happens. This is correct. Around 3:27. Officers thought they may have to rely on Goodson's fingerprints to help identify him. Unrecognizable. Yes, it was. That's fine. That's fine. Then this. This is a fluff piece of lies. This is someone taking advantage of someone's death to garner more sympathy for those left alive. I'm not a big fan of his other family. He was, in fact, born on September 24th, 1992. Those are his parents. He did not graduate in 2011. Didn't happen. He had also achieved the rank of black belt in martial arts. Did not happen. There was another article that stated he was going to join the military. Nope. I don't know which person posted this. And there were all sorts of things going over Facebook when it happened as well. I do know that at the funeral, his mom, not my mother, his mom, um, she made it a point to go up to everybody that came in that day and point to a card that was on the table. Just a card, little little card. You buy it at Hallmark. There was a poem written inside of it. She was going up to every single guest and saying, "Hey, hey, hey, I I wrote that. I wrote that. Who cares? Nobody cares." Do you think anybody in their right state of mind gives a flying, flaming sack of shit who wrote a poem when you were at the funeral for an 18-year-old kid? Nobody cares. God, I hate these people. I really hate these people. All of this has stuck with me for 11 years. It stays with me every single day. And the day that it happened, I later found out that around 11 o'clock that morning, he called my mother's house. He called there and asked his dad, "Is Tim there?" He had just seen me the night before. And his dad says, "Well, no, son, he's at work." "Oh, yeah, that's right. Why don't you just call his cell phone?" "Well, I don't want to bother him." My brother said that about me the day that he died. He wanted to talk to me about something, but he didn't call my cell phone. He called my mother's house. What did you want with me, kid? God, what did you want with me that day? Man, you talk about beating yourself up. What did you want? So this is part of his ashes. His sister got the other half. I don't know where that urn is. What I do know is it has been 11 years now to the day. It doesn't get any easier. I always find amusement in that when people say that, when you lose a loved one, it gets easier with time. No, it does not. You never forget. You never get over. This doesn't go away, especially in a situation where it's such a young life. If someone is in their 70s or 80s and they die, you can at least look on them and be like, well, they had a full life. My brother was taken from me. I can't do anything about it except sit here and know that On that day, 11 years ago, he wanted to talk to me about something. For 11 years, Bev has told me to stop beating myself up over this, but how can you stop that? With the knowledge of that information, that the day someone died, they specifically wanted to talk to you about something. How can you not beat yourself up over it? So that's it. That's about all I have to say. I won't talk about this again until next June 20th. Every Father's Day, it it hurts a little bit because I know that was the last day that I got to see my brother alive, was on Father's Day. And that really, really stings. Friend. And what we have here. Let's take a look. Yeah, this happened. Every bit of that happened. And that is still true to this day. My brother was not a excuse me. My brother was not a church going person. He was when he was a child because everyone here is. But as he got older, he became disillusioned with it. Point is, he is not a religious person. So that particular post right there was a preacher. He did not know my brother because my brother was not in church. He was not part of the congregation. But my family had known this particular preacher for a long time. And this preacher had nothing to say about my brother at the funeral. And instead, he used it as a call to altar. Verbatim, this man sat in the pulpit that day and goes, "You know, I do believe that if Thomas was here today, he would want every one of you to come down here and give your souls to Jesus. Not my brother's funeral. That was very inappropriate. Still not over that either. This kid, this kid right here, Matthew Pope, he got my brother's name tattooed on him, and just recently, this kid also died. Let me go back on that. He's not a kid anymore. He is a grown man now because he literally just died. So my brother would have been 30 this year. So I imagine Matthew Pope would have been around the same. Couldn't get in touch with him when it happened. He had literally just set up his Facebook. That right there. He didn't have a place to go. He went to my parents and wanted to move back in, and they told him no. They didn't have any room for him. And that's when that big giant blowout that I described earlier happened. That's not going to help. That's it. That's about all I've got to say. To anyone that suffered through 30 minutes of me whining, thank you.